Good afternoon, this is Sean Golden with Golding & Golding, here to discuss a common issue that we handle often, which is foreign asset disclosure to the Internal Revenue Service. It's now 2022, and let's go through some of the common reasons why you may want to consider doing it in the current year. Baseline perspective, what is foreign asset disclosure to the IRS? Well, if you're a U.S. person, which means you're a U.S. citizen, lawful permanent resident, foreign national who meets the substantial presence test, then the Internal Revenue Service and FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, require taxpayers to disclose their global assets. Totally unfair, right? But disclose their foreign assets, accounts, investments to the U.S. government each year on various different forms. These investments and assets can include things like bank accounts, investment accounts, stock accounts, stock certificates, mutual funds, CCOPs, foreign corporations, foreign pensions, foreign life insurance, etc., etc. There's various different forms that a taxpayer may have to file. There's the FBAR, Foreign Bank and Financial Account Reporting, otherwise known as FinCEN Form 114. There's FATCA Form 8938, in accordance with the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. There's Form 8621, which is for PFICs, which is foreign mutual funds, investment funds, and holding companies, for example. 3520 and 3520A as an Apple, which is used to report foreign trust ownership, distributions, gifts, and inheritance. And 5471 and 8865, which is used to report ownerships in foreign corporations and foreign partnerships. As you can see, there's a ton of different forms, and they can be brutal to file, and most people don't know they have to do it. Once you become a U.S. person, no one sends you a guide saying, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. Now you're a U.S. person, you have to report this. A lot of practitioners, understandably, who don't specialize in this area aren't really aware of the different forms. So by the time someone realizes they're out of compliance, oftentimes several years have already passed, and what do they do to get into compliance? Well, here's a couple of reasons why you may want to consider doing it. One is that more recently, several court cases have come down which have sided with the U.S. government in terms of willful and non-willfulness. There are some courts that say taxpayers should get dinged $10,000 per account per year for their unreported accounts. That adjusts for inflation. When someone's willful, minimum penalty of $100,000 a year. Again, that adjusts for inflation. And so courts are really siding with the government. They're saying only a preponderance of the evidence is needed in order to prove it, unlike something like tax fraud, which is clear and convincing evidence. And the penalties can also lead to criminal, but that's not really common. So the main reason you're doing this is to get into civil compliance, right? Enforcement is on the rise. The IRS has hired a bunch more agents, which means increased staff, it means increased audits, and then that can lead to risk of ineligibilities. What does that mean? In order to do these programs and to do one of these foreign asset disclosure programs, a taxpayer cannot be under audit. Why? Because if they're under audit, then they have a proactive responsibility to tell the auditor or the examiner about the undisclosed assets. This is referred to as a sensitive audit, eggshell audit, or reverse eggshell audit. So you want to kind of get in there before you lose the opportunity to do so. A couple of other reasons. Penalties can increase each year. Under the prior program, there was a program that was very popular. It was called OVDP, the Offshore Voluntary Disclosure Program. They terminated that program in September 2018. But there were levels to the penalty. Earlier, it was like 5% or 12.5% or 20%, depending on different factors. Then it became, I think it was 20%. And then 27.5%, and then 50%. As you can see, the theme is the penalties go up, right? They don't come down. And so things like the streamline, which is still only 5%, if you're considering doing that program, it's important to note that the penalty can go up. The IRS is not held to that penalty. And one more thing is the penalties can end, the programs can end at any time. And give you an example to compare what's been going on. In September 2018, the IRS terminated the OVDP program, Offshore Voluntary Disclosure Program. And they gave everyone, I think it was 6 months at the time. And so taxpayers who were on the fence considering doing it could submit a pre-clearance letter and get the ball rolling, okay? In November of 2020, the IRS discontinued or modified something called the Delinquent International Information Return Submission Procedures for non-willful people, primarily who didn't have any unreported income. They would do the disclosure program, the delinquency procedures specifically, and they could report their missed 3520 or 5471 without any concern. The IRS just went and changed that, and the way they did it was they just updated the FAQ page on their website. They didn't give any notice like they did for OVDP. So, you want to try to catch it when it's good. If you're considering compliance, it might be a good year to do your foreign asset investment and account disclosure. There's lots of programs that are available. If you're willful or just can't certify under penalty of perjury, you're non-willful, you would do the voluntary disclosure program. It doesn't mean you're criminal. It doesn't mean you're going to lose your immigration status like some of these ridiculous fear-mongers want you to think. If you qualify for non-willfulness, there's various programs. There's streamlined domestic offshore procedures, streamlined foreign offshore procedures, delinquency procedures, delinquent FBAR procedures, and reasonable costs. We have lots of free information available on our main websites and our sub-websites. You can always reach out and schedule a reduced fee initial consultation if you think it's appropriate, and it's something that we handle here. Again, my name is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.